Chapter 1. The threat of potential poachers wouldn't spoil Hawk's day. He glanced up through the pine and fir trees at the late August summer sky to appreciate the blue sky and billowy white clouds. Half a dozen shiny black ravens circled above the trees half a mile away. So much for thinking he'd come upon the poachers before they did any damage. He and Dog, his mid-sized, wire-haired motley mutt, had picked up the trail of two people on horseback with a pack-horse at sunrise. He'd started the pursuit after finding spent cartridge rounds at a spot where they had stopped. Only poachers would be carrying rifles during bow season and following an elk trail. From the circling birds, he feared they were too late to stop an unlawful kill. He'd used the Bear Creek Trail to patrol Goat Mountain and the Wallowa-Whitman National Forest and check bow hunters for tags. He whistled for Dog to stop. "Easy, Dog. We're going to go slow the rest of the way." Hawk dismounted, trailing his horse and pack mule behind him. It took longer to reach the kill site by walking, but he didn't want a chance surprising a bear, wolf, cougar, or the poachers. He picked his way through the brush, being mindful of the scraping noises from the pack saddle being caught in the limbs of young growth pines. Any other time he wouldn't have minded. The fresh pine scent from the abuse to the limbs filled his nostrils. Dog's tail started whipping back and forth when they were 20 feet from the area where the bird circled. "Don't tell me you've become friends with the bears and cougars on this mountain," Hawk whispered, easing out of the thicket and into a small clearing. A woman was bent over what appeared to be a man's body. He noted the backpack on the ground by the woman, and knew why Dog's tail wagged. Biologist Marlene Zetter. She traveled this area, keeping tabs on the wolf bands that had made their way to northeast Oregon from the northern Rocky Mountains. "What are you doing with a body, Marlene?" The woman in question lunged to her feet and spun to face him. Her gaze latched onto him, skimming from his cowboy boots, jeans, denim jacket, to his face under the brim of a western hat. The panic on her face disappeared as she recognized him. "Hawk, you nearly scared 10 years off my life." Dog bounded toward the woman. "Dog, sit," ordered Hawk. The animal flopped down on his haunches, obeying the command. "What are you doing up here alone and leaning over a man's body?" Hawk dropped his reins and walked over to the body and woman, studying the ground and taking care to not cover any tracks. She pointed downward. "That's what brought me here." Hawk scanned the dusty camouflage boots, pants, jacket, orange transmitter collar around the man's neck, and unseeing eyes. He whistled. "Whew! Why does he have one of your collars?" She shook her head. "We were doing a count in the area. Roger was up in the helicopter. He gave me quadrants for about a mile to the north, but as I worked my way that direction, I stumbled over this." "Did you touch anything?" Hawk walked her 15 feet back from the body. "No, I'd just knelt beside him when you arrived." She glanced around him toward the body. "Why is he wearing a tracking collar?" "I don't know. Stay here. I'll start my investigation." Hawk walked over to Horse, his pack mule, and retrieved a camera. "If you have radio access, notify dispatch. Tell them I have a body. We'll need the medical examiner and a retrieval team." He didn't wait for Marlene to reply. His digital camera, radio, and cell phone were the only pieces of current technology he used when on duty as a game warden in the Eagle Cap Wilderness. Before he began documenting the area with his camera, he did a quick look for footprints. He found Marlene's. She came from a southeast direction. He noticed 2 sets of tracks, one of which matched the boots on the victim, that came from the northwest. The other set came to where the man lay. There were a few scuffed marks, as if the person were hesitant to view the body. A squeamish killer? He followed the set of tracks that returned to the trees and discovered the distinct shoe prints of the 2 saddle horses and pack horse he tracked all day. This was one of the men he'd been tracking. "I didn't hear any shots. How did they get a wolf collar?" He glanced around at the ground, brush, and trees, searching for any sign of a struggle or blood. Nothing. Where he'd left Marlene alone with the victim, he took photos of the impressions and hurried back to the opening. The biologist remained in the same spot he'd left her back to the victim. "Do you know him?" Hawk asked, approaching the body and snapping pictures. "He looks familiar, but I can't put a name to him."